Welcome to the Life Brand Management Podcast with your girl, Brittany, aka BC Starks. I'm back with episode 15. Yes, this is actually episode 15. I know that I said the wrong number in the last episode, but I think I might get in the habit of not saying episode numbers so that I don't get tripped up on things like this. At any rate, I'm happy to be back with the next episode of the podcast, and I wanted to talk about a subject of initiation when it comes to manifesting. Many of us don't realize that when we start becoming more aware that we are powerful creators and we understand that life isn't happening to us, but we have a say-so in terms of what we give our attention and energy to as it relates to manifesting, that we are now in the driver's seat in terms of not only using our creative imagination, our creativity to create a new vision for ourselves, but we don't oftentimes realize that in doing so, we must encounter what I consider to be an initiation of sorts. What I mean by that is when you decide that what you are currently living, the experiences, the relationships, the job, the career, the opportunities, when you decide that any of those factors are no longer working for you and you have a higher calling, a higher vision for what you see for yourself, you have a higher choosing or a higher decision that you make for what you want to experience. In that very moment that you decide that things are going to be different for you, it's almost as if you are initiating your journey to becoming whatever that is, to aligning with whatever that is. And that's exactly what this is. It's so funny because I just got out of a meditation with my sister circle. I meditate with a group of powerful men and women from across the pond. And it is a very beautiful group. But we were talking towards the end of it about how when we are releasing fears, when we are releasing limiting beliefs, when we're releasing whatever it is that we choose to release during our full moon ceremonies, which is the time where we all go into the silence of meditation, tap into our inner awareness, get conscious about what it is that no longer serves us, and decide what we want to release in this new chapter, this new season, and allow the forces of the divine, spiritual ancestors, the universe, and all of its inner workings to assist us in shifting through the lower vibrational frequencies and releasing those things that no longer serve us. When we make that decision, we are initiating ourselves into a process of growing through that. Making the decision to shed fear oftentimes means that you will have to face whatever it is you're afraid of. And that means that you will be met with circumstances that come up that will test you. So if you say you want to release fear of success, for example, then whatever that fear is in relation to success, don't be surprised when a circumstance arises where you are now being put to the test. Okay, if you want to release fear around success, we're going to put you in a situation, we meaning the divine, the universe, life, circumstances, will put you in a situation where you will be triggered. That fear that you so badly want to release will oftentimes be triggered. And that is your choice point, because you had a calling, you made a decision that you wanted to release the fear. So when you're met with a circumstance, what I'm learning as I navigate my journey is that when you're met with these circumstances, that is your initiation process to practice your new way of existing. So if you say you're shedding the fear, well then what does the opposite of that look like? Are you fearless? Okay, well then what does fearlessness do? How does fearlessness think? How does fearlessness feel? What does that look like, feel like, sound like in your new decision as you carry yourself through your life with this circumstance that is now in front of you? And so you get to decide that. But here's the thing. We are so conditioned to our program that we often don't even recognize the opportunity in front of us as it's happening. I was sharing with my circle that when I found things happening to me, or coming up in my reality after I decided that I wanted certain things, and then I saw the opposite, which was the topic of my last podcast, opposites and how we deal with that. When I saw the opposite, I initially went into my program, which is reactivity mode. I began to react. Now, the beauty of it is that because I'm doing this work, my reactionary period is a much shorter time frame than what it used to be. I used to react for days, maybe weeks. Hell, I used to live in reactionary spaces. But now I'm finding myself, maybe entertaining it for a few minutes, sometimes seconds, sometimes, a couple of hours. It just varies depending on the degree to which I need to overcome that thing. And so I found myself reacting initially, but then I started noticing these higher level thoughts that would bring me into the awareness of the change that I set out to experience. And it was like, oh, but wait a second. I'm releasing this. So this is no longer the way that I can respond to my reality. How is the person, the version of me who's not afraid, how is she going to respond? How does she show up? How would she see this circumstance? How would she think about it? And then start to do that, start to reach for those better thoughts, start to tune into better ideas about it, and if there's inspiration to act in a certain way, do that. But that is the process. And then, if it comes up, should it come up again, which a lot of times it will, because again, you're releasing a program, which means there's repetition to be involved. As you release whatever no longer serves you, you get to practice what that looks like in multiple ways in your reality. So you may get other circumstances that pop up, but because you now know that you don't have to respond the same way, you show up different. And so that is the initiation. The initiation comes out of the calling to be, do, and have greater. When you decide to be, do, and have greater, you are activating this entire journey. And so that is what people who are in the manifestation community, a lot of people are struggling with, because they don't recognize that it's not a linear process. It's not linear. Life isn't linear. There are ups and downs, highs and lows. Duality always exists. For every lightness, there's darkness. For every good, there's bad, so on and so forth. And that's the part that we have to accept about this existence. And so when we accept that, we can recognize, okay, bad things are going to happen. That's just the way it is. But it's not the things that happen. It's how I respond to the things that happen that dictate who I'm being, right? Who you identify yourself as, regardless of whether the circumstances are good or bad. That's who you're being. And you attract from your being. You attract from your concept of self. And so this process of initiation is really a beautiful unfolding. If we can step back and not be so fixated on the reality in terms of its realness or its permanence, because it's not permanent and it's really not real, because it's if you think about it, reality is one great big illusion, because everything changes so fast, right? And then something that happened 5 minutes ago now becomes a memory. So what is actually real? A memory is just the thought you keep thinking. It happened, yes, but it's a snapshot that you've captured to hold in your subconscious now. But so what is really real? And so if we can understand that, then we can grow from our attachment to outcomes. We can grow our awareness in a way where we recognize we don't have to be attached to the outcome. We don't have to be attached to the outcome. Just make a decision and understand that the outcome is a possibility that can happen, right? It is something that I'm aiming towards. But if I don't see it in this moment, it doesn't mean I'm being fully denied it. It just means that this isn't a linear process, and maybe there's a new way that I can exist with this, whatever this is in front of me, right? And then remember and recall for yourself, is there something that I asked to be released? Because if there's something that I asked to be released, then maybe this is an opportunity to do that releasing, to practice that, to stabilize in my new identity, to stabilize in the new version of me who not only manifests or attracts what I desire, but I can keep it for the long haul because I'm becoming a vibrational match to it. I no longer respond the old way. Therefore, old things cannot come to me if I stabilize in this new identity, this new way of thinking, this new way of feeling. And this is the initiation process. Like, you will grow through whatever you're asking for. And there's a bit of repetition that is required. So you do have to become, you do have to align. Neville says that there's nothing to create. We create nothing. We simply align with the reality that already exists as a potential. We simply align with that. So with that being said, some of that will have to be practiced because you're used to being your program, and if you remove the program, you have to replace it with something else. And that requires repetition because, again, that is how we learn as humans. And so I just wanted to hop on this podcast today to just talk about that, to talk about the significance of a request of God, of the divine, to bring us forth something greater than what we're currently experiencing. That request, that desire, that intended manifestation, that intent to create something, that is an initiation, a calling for an initiation. You will be activated. Once you make that decision, you will be activated into your desires. You will be activated because circumstances will spring up, in relationships with people, in your career. Some people, it's funny because I was watching Dr. Joe Dispenza's testimonials, and it's something that I do often because evidence is the greatest teacher. It's the loudest voice in the room these days. It's not enough to just talk about something, but when you see people who are everyday people like you literally transforming their lives, it is life altering because now you can't close your eyes to that. Now you're saying to yourself, if they can do it, sure, I want to give it a shot too, because they're not doing anything, crazily out of the ordinary. They're simply pouring time, attention, and energy into themselves. And it's literally giving them results that changes their lives, changes their negative outcomes and experiences into pure bliss and into more desired states of existing. So I watch them often, and I'll hear them say things like, how they'll talk about how they, some of them are experiencing illness in their body. Some of them are experiencing breakdowns in their relationships. And then the minute they start devoting to themselves and they get into this routine and they get into the process of change and they repeat it, repetition over and over again. They do it daily. They find themselves, falling off the wagon. They get right back up. And as Dr. Joe says, I don't care how many times you stop. All I care is that you get back up again. As you do these processes, you become something different because you're literally training your brain to be different. You're training your emotional system to respond differently. So therefore, you cannot get the same results that you used to get because you're not the same version of you. That is the initiation. And I wanted to bring this up because I know it's been a theme for me. It's something that I've had to grow into accepting because I think I've heard it loosely, but I didn't really fully get it, especially as things in my reality were, some of it was falling apart in order to come back together in the way that's more desirable for me. And I didn't see it as that in the moment, right? Because I had a very zoomed in, very hyper-focused, I had a hyper-focused awareness on it. But then when I zoomed out and I started doing the work and I started recognizing and being more conscious and aware of what I was asking of the divine and my inner spirit and, the universe and God, what I was asking was going to require me to be different than what I had been. And that has been something that is I've really grounded myself in, and I've gained so much calm lately. I've been existing in my day-to-day with a lot more calm and resolve about myself, that I can accept that whatever comes up in my reality, that this is all a bridge of incidents leading me towards my highest intentions, my highest desires, my highest choices, as I would like to say, my highest decisions for the life I choose to experience. And I hope that this realization that I'm having is something that can benefit other people as you're on your journey, to recognize and not be afraid of it. Don't be afraid that because you ask for better, that you have to be something better. That's not what this is about, because, change can be scary. The unknown can be scary. But for me, what's scarier is living something that I no longer desire to live, and thinking that is all there is to life, and I'm going to die that way. That is way more terrifying than anything that I would have to do in my reality to change. So I would challenge you to not fear the initiation process, but instead embrace it. Know that whatever new routines that you align for yourself, whatever new practices that you add to your day-to-day, that you are doing what you need to do in order to stabilize in whatever it is you ask for. Stabilize in that new identity, that version of you that has it already. There's no one to convince, as Neville Goddard says, there's no one to convince but self. You needn't convince anybody but yourself that what you ask for is already done. It's already done. Why is it already done? It's already done because you have no inkling of the inner workings of how it needs to get done. You just need to do whatever you need to do to convince yourself that it is. That's the only work. That is the only work. Convincing yourself that it is. And the techniques that you use, such as the tools that I mentioned, such as, my intentional creation course, my vision book journal, such as my journaling routine that I talked about in a previous episode. These are just tools. Any techniques you can find on YouTube, these are all just tools to help you stabilize your emotional system, your nervous system, your thought processes. Affirmations are just to train your intellectual brain, right? And to convince your subconscious mind through repetition. Breathing techniques are to stabilize and regulate your emotional system, your nervous system, right? And as you make all these things align and become more calm and coherent, then convincing yourself becomes easier and easier, because you're at ease. You're not attached. You're detached, because you don't have this sense of urgency. You're trusting. You're exercising what faith looks like. And that is you now existing as that higher version of yourself that can have all the good that you desire for yourself. We think about the manifestation process as thinking of one thing after the other, one area, then focusing on another. But there are literal states of existence where all of your goals are met. And if you can use your imagination, which is another tool to convince yourself, right? Because the subconscious doesn't know the difference between something that is an imagined act or something that is actually happening. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. So if you use your imaginal faculties to imagine a state where all of your desires are met, then you are giving your body a taste of the future. As Dr. Joe Dispenza likes to mention, you're giving your body a taste of the future. And the more you practice that, again, repetition, the more it feels natural, the more normal. You start to normalize it. The more things that you expose yourself to over and over again becomes normal. And so it feels natural. And so it feels like something that would happen inevitably. And that's the place that you want to get to. You want to get to the place where you're trusting in everything that you're putting in, and it feels normal. That's why discipline is important. That's why consistency is important. That's why if you want to have the life that you desire, discipline and consistency will get you there. And there's no other way around it. And so I wanted to hop on to talk about that. I also wanted to share with you guys that the Intentional Creation course is still available on my website at bcstarkspr.com for $222, which is my favorite synchronistic number at the moment. It has significance for me for various reasons, as I like to mention. And that my book, my vision book journal, is now available on Amazon. So you can search I Want It All by Brittany C. Starks on Amazon, and you can take advantage of free shipping, which was not a thing when you would purchase it from my website. So now I have it available on Amazon. You can purchase it for $27 on Amazon with free shipping if you are a Prime member. And that is what I wanted to share with you all. Thank you so much for tuning in to my podcast. I pray that these words can resonate with you and help you along your journey one way or the other. If it does, go ahead and lock in with me so that you can get more doses of parts of my journey as I share. And if you know anyone else who can benefit, go ahead and share, because sharing is caring. And until next time, toodles.